going to show you 2 quick and easy ways to add seam allowance to your darts, ready for cutting out of fabric and turning into your garments. So the first method I'm going to show you is this one here. And with this one here, we are simply adding seam allowance, which you can see I've already done here, to our dart. So this here represents a skirt pattern piece. And then what I've done is I've simply added seam allowance around the dart here. Now, a couple things to bear in mind as to when to use this is, firstly, you need to make sure the width here between the edges of the dart is at least 2.5 times your seam allowance, if not more. Because if it's not, you're not going to be able to cut out this wedge here. So this distance here needs to be at least 2.5 times your seam allowance. So if you're doing 1 centimeter seam allowance, which is what I've done here, then this needs to be at least 2.5 centimeters here or more. So this here, just in case you're wondering, is half scale, but I've still added 1 centimeter seam allowances, so it's really clear and easy for you to see. So we've got the dart edge here, and all I've done is simply just taking my increment lines, noticing where the 1 centimeter increment line is, because that's what I'm doing, 1 centimeter seam allowances, lining that up with the edge of the dart, drawing in that line, and then doing the same the other side. So my edge of my sewing pattern piece is going to be along here, and then of course I'd finish any seam hem allowances around the rest of the pattern, adding on all my annotations, etc, etc. So that's the first method, and it's really good as well if you have bulkier fabric, so you don't want all this excess fabric underneath. If you have a lighter weight fabric, you might be like, no, I want to use the second method that I'm going to show you, but I would definitely recommend this with heavier weight fabrics and when you have super wide darts. So the second method is perfect if you are wanting to use a more lightweight fabric and you don't want to cut out any extra from the middle of a wider dart because you want it to hold its structure still, or it's good if you have a narrow dart and you don't have more than 2.5 times the width of the seam allowance between here. So what you want to do to prepare for this method is, first of all, start doing your seam allowances around the edges that are near the dart. So you can see I've just done one here and one here. I've done 1 centimeter seam allowances along these edges, and this here is a front bodice pattern piece. So then what you want to do is fold along both of these edges. So we're just going to pre-fold. So just taking your dart, lifting up the paper and just folding along that and bringing the fold out to the edge of the paper. And then doing the same with the other side, like so. And then you want to grab a box, or you can do this on the corner of a table if it has a nice point to it. And then what we're going to be doing is folding this dart closed using the corner of this box. But before we do that, what you want to consider is which way you want the dart to fold. So generally when you are creating tops, you want your darts to fold downwards. So you want any excess fabric to fold downwards. And if you are creating skirts or trousers, you generally would have the darts always coming away from the center. So with that in mind, what I want to make sure is when I'm folding this dart, it's going downwards. So I'm lifting this edge up and leaving this one down. I'm putting this point of the dart here on the point of the box, like so, and you can just feel it underneath. And then I'm just going to fold the dart closed, making my own kind of center line of the dart, folding it closed like so. And then I can just nicely origami it closed. And you'll see my seam allowances that I've already marked on are matching up there. And then you just want to take your pair of scissors, because this is the easiest way to copy this over, keeping your dart folded, and then cut up that seam allowance line like so. I'm just going to cut this out here, you don't need to see me do the rest. And then now I have the edge of that dart really nicely finished. So when I cut it out of fabric, it's going to sew nicely into our seam allowances, so it's going to just create a really nice finish, making sure it doesn't come undone and it is strong in that seam allowance edge, and we have enough fabric to sew it in.